This is Robert Harper with Virginia Farm Bureau's Grain Division. Glad to bring you the Merchandiser Minute for Friday, April the 24th, 2020. We've got a lot of words or phrases that we can use to describe this time we're in this week that we've just experienced. I think the word that sticks out in my mind the most is reset. And we're definitely seeing a global reset in economies and in communities, not only here in the United States, but around the world, and that's having a big impact on everything. No stone left unturned is what one producer member told me this week, and I think he's exactly right. We started the week off with some devastating observations around that West Texas crude oil contract as it was going into expiration, and for the first time we saw a physical commodity trade to negative numbers. Keep our eye on that, and remember the issue with crude oil, whichever futures contract you're looking at, is similar in some regards to some of our commodities, not all of them, but some, and that's that production is outpacing demand due to the coronavirus. Let's look at how the futures wound up the week. We had a lot of volatility this week as we're getting used to. We saw May corn, the nearby contract in Chicago, close on the board at $3.15 today, down 7 cents for the week. We saw May soybeans, your nearby contract, close down a penny for the week at $8.32. And our nearby wheat contract, Chicago wheat, and the May contract closed at $5.26, down 10 cents for the week. And remember on Tuesday, off a lot of that negativity around what happened the day before with West Texas Intermediate crude oil, we saw corn test a 2016 low of $3.01 on the futures board, and we saw beans recover as well on Tuesday, 22 cents a bushel off of their lows. So we did test some lows this week, and one positive thing we need to say and focus on is that futures did hold above those lows. Another big interesting move in regard to these commodities this week was on Monday. Russia said they were going to end temporarily, indefinitely, whatever that means, in their export program on July the 1st of this year for wheat. And for a time on Monday, we saw Chicago wheat futures up 25 cents a bushel. So just another indication that there are opportunities. Opportunities are going to come, and let's keep disciplined in our marketing and get those wish orders and open orders in. We take a look at the cattle markets. We saw harvest numbers way off this week on the cattle side of things, down about 20% week over week. And again, we had another week like last week of news of plant closures, and that's definitely affecting futures price as well as cash. June live cattle futures closed at $82.62, down $4 a hundredweight this week, and the May feeder cattle contract closed at $117.45, down $2 a hundred this week. I think next week the real price determining factor is going to be harvest capacity in reference to the live cattle futures, fat cattle futures. So every day in the early afternoon we get a USDA slaughter report. Traders are going to be watching that report very closely to see what those harvest numbers are and how the industry is going to be able to keep up with as many plant closures as we've seen. We've also seen many plant closures in the pork industry as well as the poultry industry, and some numbers that came in. The U.S.'s largest meatpacking union has about 250,000 members. And they have said yesterday publicly that 5,000 of their members have contracted COVID-19. They did say that as of yesterday, 13 of those people had perished from that disease. So that's a big deal, obviously, and a lot of plants, a lot of companies have been impacted by Corona and COVID getting into their employees, and it had a big impact across the board. When we look at USDA numbers, remember now we're into April through October. We get crop progress numbers on Monday at 4 o'clock. You want to take a look at those. We got our normal weekly inspections report, what got loaded on vessels this week, and we also got our export sales report. Both of those reports this week, I would say, were somewhat disappointing. They were within expectation on numbers, but we're looking for big export numbers right now as we're seeing demand disappear here domestically. We did have 3 days this week with very large flash sales announcements from the USDA. China buying beans. Mexico made a very large corn purchase, so that's very good news. A few eye catchers for the week. Congress passed a new $484 billion package for small business aid. We got a lot of good details this week about the $19 billion farm aid deal. Ben Rowe at Virginia Farm Bureau wrote an excellent summary of that aid package, and you can find that on Plows and Politics on that blog. We did see more African swine fever cases show up in China this week in their hog herd, reminding us that that hasn't completely gone away. Heavy pressure and downside losses in the soy oil market. We talk a lot about soybean meal and how that impacts your soybean price, but this week we saw soy oil tumble, and that hurt beans. And the weekly EIA ethanol report on Wednesday now has 48% of America's ethanol production offline. So in closing here and thinking a little bit about marketing, make sure we're staying disciplined with our marketing right now on those old crop bushels that we have left in the bin, either to lock in the futures if they're basis contracts. Remember the May futures contracts, we got to get out of them next week. So let's have those conversations. Call in if we can help you to discuss pricing versus rolling. And let's put a sharp pencil to our production cost and what we think our estimated yield might be this year now that our crop plans are in place, and see if there's any work that we need to do on marketing your new crop bushels. So keep your eye next week on the dryness that's building in Brazil, the planting going on here in the U.S. Corn Belt. Watch out for more oil issues and how that might impact the overall market. Look for opportunities, and I'm glad to remind y'all are really good at what you do. You're the best in the world, and you like what you do. And I've been encouraged again this week from y'all that let's stay focused on what we can control, and that's going to help us through this time of all these unforeseen outside influences. Give us a call if we can help you, either Robert or Josie. We're here at the Virginia Farm Bureau's Grain Division.